present to you Yemen, a small country found in the Middle East that neighbors Saudi Arabia and Oman. Yemen has been torn apart in the last decade due to constant unrest and civil war. The United Nations have called Yemen the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Yet media attention is minuscule, and it seems as though the world has turned a blind eye towards the crisis. Thousands of civilians have been killed or injured, and diseases such as cholera have run rampant. Millions of people in Yemen lack basic necessities and lack access to healthcare, making the situation all the more perilous. But why is the fighting occurring? Who's involved? And what can we do to help? Let us take a time turner to 2010. High unemployment, low development, corruption, and a lack of freedoms have led to an uprising in Tunisia against their leader Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. But it happened to be that the same conditions in Tunisia that caused the revolution were applicable to many other Middle Eastern countries as well. Before the world knew it, the Middle East was lit up in protest and revolution against the dictators that had ruled them for decades. This soon spread to Yemen, which had been ruled by the dictator Ali Abdullah Saleh since 1990. Yemen erupted into chaos, but eventually a deal was brokered by the Gulf Cooperation Council, a council made up of various Arab monarch states. Saleh agreed to step down and begin the transition towards shifting power to his deputy, Abdruhu Mansour Hadi, who had served as interim president on occasion and who had won the debatedly fair election to find Saleh's successor. Unfortunately, the unrest that caused President Saleh to step down was only the beginning of a sharp decline in Yemen's stability. The Houthis, a Shia Muslim group who had been engaged in periodic wars with the Saleh administration, launched a military operation to take control of Yemen in 2014 as Hadi's administration proved to be inefficient at governing. The Houthis made fast advances, taking over the capital Sana'a within the year. Some citizens who were dissatisfied with the direction Yemen was taking also joined the Houthis. Former President Saleh and security forces that remained loyal to him then joined their former adversaries, the Houthis, forcing President Hadi to flee from the country. This then led to Yemen becoming the world's newest playground. Saudi Arabia and Iran opened Yemen as a new front to their pseudo-Cold War. Both countries have been competing with each other for decades to have greater influence and power in the region and cannot resist the opportunity to mold a country in a direction that supports them. The Houthis are backed by the Iranians, while exiled President Hadi's forces are backed by a Saudi-led coalition. The United States and United Kingdom, being allies of Saudi Arabia for over half a century, have also provided military and logistical aid for the Saudi-led coalition. Unfortunately, like so many wars in the modern era, this war quickly became a hot mess for all players involved. As the war reached a rough stalemate, atrocities and human rights violations began occurring on both sides. In fact, the United States has come under fire because of their aid to Saudi Arabia. There is an easy and valid argument that the US is complicit in the Saudi war crimes in Yemen, as the US has been providing the Saudi coalition with support and backing. The Saudis have also implemented a strict air, sea, and land blockade of Yemen starting in 2015. The blockade was cited as needed to prevent weapon smuggling, but it has exacerbated the issues for the people of Yemen. A lot of aid for Yemen citizens end up being delayed or blocked. With the war occurring, food shortages have led to close to famine-like situations. People in Yemen desperately need any assistance they can get. As the war developed, child soldiers were used, journalists were silenced, the economy of Yemen collapsed, and civilians had their entire lives disrupted and at times were even targeted via bombs at hospitals, schools, and markets. Most civilians currently have little to no access to stable sources of food, water, healthcare, and income. In fact, the latest reports from the UN suggest that 75% of the population in Yemen and nearly every child is in desperate need of aid. Reports also suggest that nearly half of Yemen's medical facilities aren't even functional. This fact is crucial, as enormous cholera outbreaks have occurred, and now Yemen must grapple with COVID-19 as well, a disease that has brought most of the world's powers to their knees. Despite reported COVID-19 cases in Yemen being low, aid workers and experts suspect far higher amounts of cases because a low reported amount of cases can be attributed to non-existent testing. The conditions in Yemen are ripe for the disease, and there are far fewer reliable medical centers than most other countries in the world. As Yemen is extremely weak, terror groups such as Al-Qaeda have also entrenched themselves within the country. There are fears that the tremendous hardships faced by the Yemenis people could lead to some being disillusioned with the world and radicalized. But as the situation currently stands, due to public backlash growing over time, and nations becoming tired of funding a war with little to no progress, countries have begun withdrawing troops. The Saudi coalition's ground military is almost completely gone from the scene. However, the focus is now on local groups and militias. The fighting within Yemen continues as the nation is controlled by many different groups. Supplies and support from international actors are still influencing the direction of the war, even as ceasefires are beginning to occur.
There are still millions of families and children suffering this very minute, wondering what will become of them. Taking action in some form is imperative. Feel free to donate towards any of these organizations. But help definitely does not have to take the form of money. Spreading awareness for Yemen's situation by telling other people and bringing it up to your friends and family is just as effective. Feel free to call or email your local representative about the US providing Saudi Arabia weapons, intelligence, and supplies. The United States is causing the world's biggest humanitarian crisis. Saudis use American-made weapons and intelligence to bomb civilian targets. In fact, if the US continues its trading relationship with the Saudi Arabians, more humanitarian disasters may occur in the future. The only way to end the current worst humanitarian crisis of our time is through clamoring for some sort of peace deal or ceasefire. But the people of Yemen cannot wait for how long that may take, with many desperately clinging to survival. There are so many crises and worthwhile causes in the world, and it may seem overwhelming and exhausting at times. But doing anything, whether it be big or small, is such an important and vital step to take. For sources and further reading, there will be articles linked in the description below.